Hello, here's screen capture number 2 for my class database structures, and here I'm going to go over creating a table, because as I demonstrated in my last video, there are many tables that were given to us, but sometimes you need your own table. So I'll leave the code that I used last time there, because as long as I highlight and use run selected, it won't run everything every time. It'll only run the things I want to run. So it keeps it fast, and I don't need to constantly update everything. So now, for starting, there's a create table, function that we will use, and from here we could name the table whatever you want. Let's name it a temp table because that's all it is. Just something to demonstration, easy to understand, hopefully. Now, most tables, depending on what they are though, they only need certain things. Well, most tables though always need an ID, which is going to be an integer, and we're going to set its default to null. Now, you can separate what kind of columns it has with commas, and you can just keep going on and on. So, now, for SQL, they have something called a varchar. A varchar is, in other programming languages, essentially a string. If you look at the bottom, the studio, the title, the status, they're all considered varchars because they're just written out they're strings of letters. But with every varchar, you also need to give it a size that we need to give it. So 50 sounds like a reasonable size for whatever we want to name it, and we can have it hold names or whatever else we need to hold it. I'm also going to make this one default null. And now, from here, you could keep adding more things, give everything else different defaults, give them different names, give them different sizes if needed. And there's many things that you could do. But the biggest thing I want to touch on right now is, before the video ends, is the most important part. With every table, there needs to be a primary key. The best thing to set the primary key to, though, is usually the ID, because every table has an ID of some sort. So, by setting up the primary key, you're able to access it, and the database is able to access it. And whenever you need to check something, the ID itself should never be null, and it should always be a different value. So therefore, as I did up here when I set the temp ID, or where I made sure I only switched the DVD ID of the first one, by setting up the primary key, it helps prove that it knows where to look to get to wherever it needs to get to. It helps sets the table apart from everything else.